President-elect Trump held a press conference today in Mar-a-Lago and spoke for more than an hour, leaving reporters no time to ask him a second question.
Yes. They're mocking him for holding a press conference that lasted more than an hour. Joe Biden's never done that in his life. Our news media, the most corrupt institution in the United States of America, they probably set those fires in California, too. Well, happy Wednesday to you and welcome back. That's right, epic, historic press conference. If he were a Democrat, the news media would be loving it. They'd be crazy for this press conference yesterday at Mar-a-Lago, which, what did the Democrats say was worth $19 million when it's really worth $500 million? And they charged him with felonies for saying something he didn't say, and they lied to everybody. And we've got a lot of crazy going on in California. The wind speeds are 99 miles an hour, 100 miles an hour, blowing these fires, these wildfires in Malibu and Pacific Palisades and where they got Pasadena. There, it's crazy, these wildfires out there. Homes burning everywhere. And it's madness. It truly is. We got James Woods, who lives apparently in Pacific Palisades, and he's on the Twitter. You know, he loves the Twitter. And he's out there pointing out that the mayor, Karen Bass, former member of the House of Representatives, who is a woman of color and a left-wing radical Democrat extremist, right? And she's in Africa for the fires going on in Los Angeles, California. She's in Ghana for the inauguration of the president of Ghana, not in Los Angeles. I wonder if she brought the head of the New Orleans FBI with her, because that'd be fun. And also, I hope she doesn't take an upgrade to first class or anything, because, you know, Mayor Eric Adams in New York, he got in a lot of trouble for that, lots of trouble for taking an upgrade to first class on his overseas air travel. I thought the Biden Justice Department charged him with felonies for that, right? Felonies for taking an upgrade from coach to first class, the mayor of New York, because they're the Soviet Union. They're the Soviet stinking Union. But James Woods, funny guy, and he is putting tweets out about the mayor and the fire chief and all kinds of fun stuff. And he's a funny man. And he's like, well, you know, at least we've got an LGBTQ fire chief and an African-American woman mayor of Los Angeles, but maybe we should have water in the reservoirs. And we got Gavin Newsom, who's the hair gel guy, as the governor of California. President Trump warned him years ago about maybe cleaning up the beds of the forest to avoid this sort of thing in future. He ignored it. Gavin Newsom ignored it. President Trump, right again. And President Trump yesterday at his press conference, his epic press conference at Mar-a-Lago, and I want to get back to that now. Pretty remarkable stuff. Oh, yeah, there's James Woods. James Woods on Twitter tweeting, priorities stated in her bio below. This is the LGBTQ female fire chief in Los Angeles. And refilling the water reservoirs would have been a welcome priority. To refill the water reservoirs. But I guess she had too much on her plate promoting diversity. And it's true. Not only that, Karen Bass, the mayor of Los Angeles, who's in Ghana for the inauguration of the president of Ghana, when she came in, the Democrats had already slashed the LAPD budget. So she said, well, I'll put more money back into the LAPD budget, but I'm going to slash the LAFD budget. So she cut the fire department budget in Los Angeles, California, and now that's paying off, isn't it? Isn't that great? Just wonderful. They are not on our side. Boy, are they not on our side. Amazing stuff. Now, I want to get back to President Trump and his press conference yesterday. The Babylon Bee, Trump announced his plan to rename the moon Space America. Space America. Michael Piercy and I came up with Moon-a-Lago. We prefer Moon-a-Lago to Space America, but it's kind of fun because the people at the Babylon Beer are pretty much always funny. And President Trump is talking about renaming the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America. Who says you guys get naming rights? Show me where you got naming rights, huh? And to rename Canada, this is the front page of the New York Post today, the Don Rowe Doctrine, Trump's vision for hemisphere. And it's great stuff. It really is. He's got a lot of funny stuff that he's putting out there. To take over Greenland, and Donald Trump Jr. was in Greenland yesterday, having flown up there on the Trump 757, the Boeing 757 airplane, and rename Greenland our land, rename Canada the 51st state, rename the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America, and rename the Panama Canal the Panamaga Canal, which I think are all a lot of fun. And it is about exerting U.S. authority in the Western Hemisphere, which is a good thing for humanity, for the entire world, since the Chinese communists, the most prolific mass murderers of humanity in the history of the world, quite literally, and they're trying to take over the world. And lefties in America think, well, that's just kind of a neutral outcome. There's no big deal. Not a problem there. The United States saved the world again and again in the 20th century. Let's just, for a moment, I've talked about it before, but let me say this, that, only the tyrants of the world need fear the wrath of the United States of America. But if the tyrants of the world do not fear the wrath of the United States of America, then the tyrants of the world have nothing to fear. And that's when they slay and enslave and conquer and subjugate. And that is the history of the world. And the United States of America in the 20th century, the saviors of humanity again and again, certainly the Pax Americana. You're familiar, of course, with the Pax Romana, the Roman peace, the peace imposed in Europe and beyond during the Roman Empire from the Holy Land to Britain, the Pax Romana, and then the post-World War II Pax Americana, which maintained effectively world peace. We fought the little wars, so we didn't have to fight the big wars. But you may note that the commies were behind all of the little wars, from the Korean War to the Vietnam War to Grenada. The commies were behind all of it because the commies want to kill, subjugate, enslave, and imprison. That's what the left does. In case you're unaware of that, that sums them up pretty well, I've got to say. And now President Trump is talking about, and that's the New York Post is a play on the Monroe Doctrine, right, of President James Monroe in 1823. Now the Don Rowe Doctrine, Trump's vision for hemisphere, and Greenland, Canada, shape up Mexico, the Panama Canal, which the Chinese have designs on, and we built the Panama Canal. The French tried. It didn't go very well for the French. They had done pretty well with the Suez Canal. I've been on boats on the Suez Canal. I've been on boats on the Panama Canal. They're nice canals, and good ideas, too. Really amazingly great ideas. And we built the Panama Canal, like 1904 to 1914. And then Jimmy Carter, whose funeral is kind of ongoing in Washington, D.C. today. You can still visit the casket of Jimmy Carter lying in state underneath the Capitol Dome in Washington, D.C., the U.S. Capitol Dome right now, open to the public since 7 o'clock last night. Tomorrow is Thursday, funeral for former President Jimmy Carter, Naval Academy grad, naval officer, nuclear Navy officer, and he still couldn't pronounce the word nuclear. Nuclear. Don't say nuclear. Say nuclear. It's an important word. Pronounce it correct. It's unclear to me why you can't pronounce nuclear. It's always been a mystery. And a lot of people can't. It's one of those strange English language idiosyncrasies. It certainly is. But with that said, President Trump at the press conference yesterday, I digressed again. Now, President Trump is talking about buying Greenland from Denmark. And the Danish prime minister, it's called Denmark, but they call the people Danish. They're not Denmarkers or Denmarkian or something. They're Danish, like the things you have at breakfast that are very tasty. Danish Prime Minister says Greenland is, quote, not for sale, end quote, as Trump Jr. visits. And the radical left-wing extremists who love terrorism and illegal alien gangs at the Huffington Post, they've got the story. The president-elect's eldest son landed in the Greenlandic capital of Nuuk on Tuesday, N-U-U-K. Is that pronounced nuke, like nuclear? But there it is. So as President-elect Donald Trump continues to voice his renewed interest in purchasing Greenland as a territory of the United States of America, Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen shared a message for him. Greenland belongs to the Greenlanders. Well, then why are you the one talking about it? Because you're the Prime Minister of Denmark, not Greenland. But never mind that. Greenland is not for sale, Frederiksen said on Tuesday on Danish television. Danish television, is that like all breakfast all the time? After breakfast, they go off the air. Her comments landed on the same day as Donald Trump Jr. arriving on the Arctic island in the family's branded jet for a brief private visit. On social media, the president-elect referred to his eldest son, who is accompanying him, as his representatives, and his representatives got representatives there. So that's fun, and he's talking about other stuff too. And let's get to it. Now, the Danish Prime Minister can say what he wants, but he doesn't wield a lot of power. You know, he would be the tiniest breakfast shop in the Soviet Empire were it not for the United States of America. Canada would be the largest wheat field in the Soviet Empire were it not for the United States of America. So you guys just be lucky that you can hang with us. You should be glad that we even hang out with you, honestly. So Trump says he will rename the Gulf of Mexico. As the Washington Post very upset about this today. Can he do that? Well, sure he can. Now, does Mexico recognize it, or does anybody else? He can. Can he rename it and make everybody else call it the Gulf of America? And the Washington Post doesn't say that in their headline. It just says Trump says he will rename the Gulf of Mexico. He's not calling it the Gulf of Trump. He's calling it the Gulf of America. That's what he's saying. And if nothing else, it's funny as hell. But these guys are just not good at funny, are they? Man, oh, man. The Washington Post, the hard copy of the paper, which I have right here. One of the last people to have this delivered to their homes. Oh, by the way, the Washington Post laid off a whole bunch of people yesterday. They're laying off, 4% of their workforce. They like to say workforce, including a good friend of mine who was working at the Washington Post, a secret pro-American person, laid off yesterday. He's white. I want to look at who they laid off because you think everybody they laid off is white? But their lead story today, Trump won't rule out coercion to expand U.S. map. And that's their lead story. Front page, A-sectional. They have the A-sectional. Some of them are A-sectional. Some of them are metrosectional. Trump won't rule out, and I love this, the rule out. Will you use nuclear weapons on the, well, he won't rule it out. It's all in the question asked by the fake reporter, right? Trump won't rule out coercion. And what does coercion mean? Economic pressure, political pressure to expand U.S. map. Does it really? We want to buy. He's talking about buying Greenland, which is funny. To expand U.S. map. He eyes Panama Canal and Greenland in winding 70 minutes. A possible look at next 4 years. The Washington Post is hoping that now they put out a thing yesterday saying they're going to do like celebrity news from now on, something like that. No more. The Washington Post. And they're firing people all over the place because they lost $77 million last year, which is not good business. Good thing they're owned by Jeff Bezos, who's now sucking up to Donald Trump. But never mind that. I got President Trump's press conference from yesterday. I had lots of really great stuff. Greenland, Panama, Canada. Fun. You know that the all-new third-generation Eden Pure Thunderstorm air purifier is finally available to you and to me? I already have one of the new ones. It builds on the incredible success of the previous generations. I've got two of those, which earned thousands of five-star reviews on Al Gore's Amazing Internet and became a bestseller in no time at all. This new Eden Pure Thunderstorm uses two different technologies that studies have shown help to kill up to 99.9% of bacteria in the air and viruses. It also removes dust and pet stuff and smoke and a whole lot more from the air. Helps get rid of any odor. Also, no filters to buy and replace over and over again. It's an amazing device. The Thunderstorm will help get rid of any stinky smell, guaranteed. Odors from trash cans and cigarette smoke and smelly shoes, a teenager's bedroom, left-wing protesters, even Michael Moore. Right now, you can save $200 American on an Eden Pure Thunderstorm 3-pack for whole home protection. You can put one in your basement, your family room, any place you like to breathe clean, fresh air. And all you have to do is go to EdenPureDeals.com. EdenPureDeals.com. Use the discount code CHRIS3, CHRIS and the number 3 to save $200 on 3 Eden Pure Thunderstorms. That's EdenPureDeals.com. The discount code is CHRIS3. Yes, sir. All right, President Trump coming up, great stuff. The media's all bent out of shape. In the meantime, what are the Democrats doing? Freeing terrorists, voting in favor of Venezuelan gangs murdering young girls. You know, the usual stuff. Chris here with a list of things that none of us should trust. The Washington Post, the New York Times, anything on CNN. Here's a list of things that I do trust. The Washington Times. Support real journalism for just $1 a week at WashingtonTimes.com/Chris. Now, the Democrats, on whose side are the Democrats? I've been saying for years, because it's true, the Democrats are not on our side. Joe Biden very recently commuted the death row sentences of every single death row inmate in federal custody. If he could do it for death row convicted murderers and so on, in state custody, he would have done that too. Now, he still loves more than 1 million abortions a year, which we had last year, more than 1 million. It was a 12-year high after, the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade. Democrats are, oh, no, where are my, when's my daughter going to be able to kill the grandkids? And and they're very upset about that. But then we had the highest number of abortions in 12 years. Joe Biden's good with that. But if you're Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, the, one of the masters of the September 11th, 2001 attacks, he has lifted the threat of a death sentence for Khalid Sheikh Mohammed. And for every death row inmate in federal custody in the United States. That's kind of amazing. He freed 11 terrorists from Guantanamo Bay, sent them to Oman so they can party. Only 15 remaining in Gitmo now. And what did the Democrats do yesterday on the Lake and Riley bill? Now, we also have Mailbag Day today. And Joe Biden did an interview with USA Today. He doesn't normally, but it's another. Who was it? Susan Page, you said? Yeah, faithful Democrat Party apparatchik. And she did an interview with Joe Biden. It's not clear when the interview took place, but one of the highlights, one of the headlines out of the USA Today interview with Joseph Robinette Biden, who's not on our side, he was asked, do you believe you could have won in November? The Democrat Party gave him the hook. They pulled the old cane out and they yanked him off stage and gave the nomination to a woman that has never won a single electoral college vote. She hadn't won a primary, not 5 years ago, not last year. That's Kamala Harris, of course, for you Democrats who voted for her. But Susan Page asked, do you believe you could have won in November? And Joe Biden said, it's presumptuous to say that. He likes to start by saying it's presumptuous to say that. And then he says, but I think yes. So he's being presumptuous, but I think yes. based on the polling that, and then ellipsis, ... because she cut him off. Do you think you would have had the vigor to serve another 4 years in office? I don't know, he said. I don't know. I do. I know. The answer is no. I don't know. Who the hell knows? So far, so good, he says. Then he fell down a flight of stairs. But who knows? Who knows what I'm going to be when I'm 86 years old? That's what he says. Who knows what I'm going to be when I'm 86 years old? Worse than you are now, I think, is probably fair to say. He says he thinks he could have won, and it's presumptuous to say so. But that's it. But I think, yes, based on the polling. That's what he said. He's probably wrong, but it's a crazy world out there. That's a for sure. And we have the mailbag today, too, which I have the mailbag questions right in front of me. But with so much going on, I've got to say that, the Democrats there, I like to say because it's true that they're not on our side because, they're not. They're not on our side. They're not on our side at all. They're not with us. They're not with the United States of America. And I should also say, President Trump talking about renaming the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America. I think that's kind of fun. My friend Scott in Texas. Texas, they've got a piece of the Gulf of Mexico there, and Texas, a big piece, don't they? He says, listen, he talked to the Gulf of Mexico, and the Gulf of Mexico identifies as the Gulf of America, and therefore would be fine being called the Gulf of America because the Gulf of Mexico now identifies as the Gulf of America. So that's all right. But back to the Democrats for a minute, because Joe Biden, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, the troglodyte of Al-Qaeda, one of the key figures in the September 11, 2001 attacks being held at Guantanamo Bay, Guantanamo, Cuba, where the song Guantanamera, that song Guantanamera, that's about Guantanamo Bay. It's about it's a bay, the Mara, like Mar-a-Lago. That's it is Guantanamera. The song is about Guantanamo Bay, which is kind of fun, but that's not important now. You think they'd just be enjoying playing a soccer there. Joe Biden released 11 terrorists from Guantanamo Bay. I talked about it yesterday, including 2 guys who were bodyguards to Osama bin Laden, who probably, should have been shot when we encountered them in the first place, but never mind that. And now there are only 15 people left at Guantanamo Bay because Joe Biden wants to, and the Democrats want to let them all go so they can likely kill again. Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, his death sentence commuted. The Biden White House, Joe Biden, commuted the death sentences of every federal death row inmate in the United States who were all convicted of horrible, terrible crimes. Really awful, terrible crimes. And Joe Biden said, well, we don't want to put them to death, just babies, by the millions, because they're helpless and don't have lawyers. Amazing stuff. And now there are actually 2 federal death row inmates that are refusing Joe Biden's commutation because they're still appealing their cases. And if they accept the commutation, they say that would be like admitting guilt. But Shannon Agofsky and Len Davis, Agofsky, 53 years old, Len Davis, 60 years old, said in court documents that they never requested commutations. So they're rejecting the commutations that Joe Biden has given them as death row inmates on federal death row. A total of 37 inmates on federal death row had their sentences commuted to life in prison without parole last month by President Joe Biden. And 2 of them are rejecting the commutation because they say they can't continue to appeal their cases if they accept the commutation. Isn't that amazing? So 2 of them filed motions, but the other 35 are like, oh, yeah, we'll take the commutation. We're guilty as hell. We murdered everybody. We tortured and raped and murdered everybody. And we're grateful that Joe Biden is on our side, because he is. Joe Biden's on the side of 37 death row inmates on federal death row. Joe Biden is on the side of every radical Islamic jihadi terrorist at Guantanamo Bay. He just literally freed 11. And again, there were only, 26 people at Guantanamo Bay. And he freed 11 of them and sent them to Oman, where they can party, like it's 1999, because September 11th, 2001 is just around the corner. There are 15 remaining, including Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, who no longer faces the threat of the death penalty because Joe Biden loves terrorists, right? And he loves murderers on federal death row. The Democrat Party is not on our side. They're not on the side of civilization. They're the left. And with that said, also yesterday, there was a vote on Capitol Hill. And this has a lot of people in the media upset, too. There was a vote on Capitol Hill. It was the first vote of the new Congress. And it was the Laken-Riley Act. The Laken-Riley Act. And the Democrats, and that means the news media, are very much against the Laken-Riley. Laken-Riley, 22-year-old. In fact, I think today would have been her 23rd. No, maybe it's Friday. Would have been her 23rd birthday. She would have been turning 23 years old. But instead, she was murdered by an illegal alien from Venezuela who bashed her skull in and killed the 22-year-old nursing student, Jose Ibarra. Jose Ibarra murdered her. And so the Republicans, not the Democrats, came up with the Laken-Riley Act. And it passed yesterday. And headline after headline is corrupt because our news media is the most filthy, corrupt institution in the United States of America. Here's the actual headline. Now, here's what, let me give you what the Laken-Riley Act does. The Laken-Riley Act it says, and it passed yesterday through the House. Now it has to pass the Senate and be signed by the president. And Joe Biden wouldn't sign it because he's pro-Laken-Riley murderer. He's pro-Jose Ibarra, Venezuelan gang member, murdered 22-year-old nursing student, completely innocent, jogging. It's not like she was in the middle of a drug deal or something. The Democrats will riot and burn cities if the police kill a drug dealer or somebody in the middle of a drug deal. But never mind that. 159 Democrats voted against the Laken-Riley Act yesterday. Now, the headlines are CNN, GOP-led, and now why they politicize it in the first letter. GOP-led immigration legislation passes House in first bill of new Congress, but faces uncertain future in Senate. They're hoping that the Venezuelan gang will win the day in the end because the Democrats are with the terrorists at Gitmo, with the mass murderers on federal death row, and they're with illegal alien gang members from Venezuela that murder nursing students on college campuses in Georgia. They're on the side of everything wrong. They're on the side of Khalid Sheikh Mohammed. Just amazing stuff. Laken-Riley Act gains steam. Honestly, I was marveling at the headlines here. The New York Times, House passes, quote, Laken-Riley Act, end quote. You don't have to put it in quotation marks. That's what it's called. To deport unauthorized immigrants, that's illegal alien gang members, charged with minor crimes. How major do the crimes have to be before the illegal aliens are kicked out of the country? Amazing stuff. And CNN, how each member of the House voted on the Laken-Riley Act. And CNN is very much against the Laken-Riley Act. But here's the key to this. The Laken-Riley Act, again, would require detention of what CNN calls undocumented immigrants, illegal alien gang members from Venezuela included, charged with theft or burglary. So they're burgling houses with people inside. There are gangs of them doing it. And the Democrats, including the people at CNN, saying, well, you can't kick them out of the country. You have to pay for their college and move them into your daughter's bedroom. Isn't that amazing? The legislation is named after a Georgia student who was killed last year while she was out for a run. It faces an uncertain future in the Senate. They all say the same thing, don't they? The House vote was 264 to 159. Listen to this. With 48 Democrats voting with Republicans in support. No, the way you write that is with 159 Democrats voting against it, voting with Jose Ibarra and Tren de Aragua, the Venezuelan gang, voting with murder and against innocent young women who are being murdered, because it's perfectly consistent with everything else the Democrats are doing at Gitmo and on death row and Laken Riley and Khalid Sheikh Mohammed. They're in favor of the gangs. They're in favor of the terrorists. It's not your grandma's Democrat Party, that's for sure. Just amazing stuff. So the Democrat, if you're a Democrat, you are on the side of Khalid Sheikh Mohammed. You're on the side of Gitmo terrorists. You're on the side of Tren de Aragua. Your members of Congress, 159 of them in the House of Representatives, voted against the Laken Riley Act, and only 48, for the most part, in districts that, may leave them in jeopardy next time around. That may be what they call purple districts, because they're choking to death from autoerotic asphyxiation. But never mind that. Isn't that amazing? Now, with the appalling Democrats, and they're attacking President Joe Biden says he could have won re-election against Donald Trump, even though Kamala Harris didn't, which is both sexist and racist. I think it goes without saying, doesn't it? Now, let's get back to President Trump, because he was so much fun yesterday at his big press conference at Mar-a-Lago, which is not worth $19 million, as the Democrats lied. So President Trump, at his 70-minute-long press conference at Mar-a-Lago, more than Joe Biden has done in his entire presidency, but never mind that. Never held a 70-minute press conference in his 4 years as president. And President Trump talking about how the Biden administration, with the ban on drilling offshore for gas and for oil, which would make us energy independent, which would make everything less expensive, from food at the grocery store to trekking to driving the kids to school, your monthly budget. But the Democrats want to strangle you, too. President Trump yesterday on what the Biden administration is sticking to him.
We are inheriting a difficult situation from the outgoing administration, and they're trying everything they can to make it more difficult. Inflation is continuing to rage, and interest rates are far too high. And I've been disappointed to see the Biden administration's attempt to block the reforms of the American people and that they voted for. We had a landslide election. We won every swing state. We won the popular vote by millions and millions of people.
And I've been talking about the fact yesterday when, Joe Biden is, let's stick it to President Trump. We'll make it impossible to make gasoline less expensive, natural gas less expensive. Played the audio yesterday or the day before of Barack Obama saying, under my plan of cap and trade, electricity costs will necessarily be, he said they'll skyrocket. Now let's get President Trump, number 4, talking about the offshore drilling ban, which is sabotage. And he's sabotaging the country and all of the people in it, Joe Biden and the Democrats, by making everything more expensive. But he thinks he's sticking it to Trump because Biden thinks he could have beat him on Election Day. But his own party sabotaged him, so now he's going to sabotage the country.
President Biden's actions yesterday on offshore drilling, banning offshore drilling, will not stand. I will reverse it immediately. It'll be done immediately. And we will drill, baby, drill. We're going to be drilling in a lot of other locations, and the energy costs are going to come way down. They'll be brought down to a very low level.
And that's what they've got to stop, isn't it? Because then they'd look bad. And that's how vicious they are as political hacks. They'll stick it to the country. Screw the country. What about the party? It's party first, party last, party all the time. Party, party, party all the time. The Democrat Party. And when they do, they always make sure to call Hunter Biden because he brings the good stuff.
Under my plan of a cap and trade system, electricity rates would necessarily skyrocket.
All right, I need to update with revise and extend my remarks on Joe Biden commuting the death sentences of federal death row convicts. He left 3 in place, 3 federal death sentence cases in place. On death row in federal custody and not having their sentences commuted by Joe Biden, the only ones, Dylan Roof. Now, that's Dylan Roof of the South Carolina Church, black church, right? And he, it was the Mother Emanuel AME Church where he committed a massacre, and a very bad person. The Robert Bowers, who committed a massacre at the Tree of Life Synagogue, you may remember. And also Joker Zarnaev, who, of course, they committed with his brother, and then he killed his brother, the Boston Marathon bombing, the Boston Marathon attack. Remember, the news media wanted to say it was Patriots. It was Patriot Day. And they got pictures like, oh, they're white guys. And, they were Central Asian Muslims. And then they were womp, womp, womp. But they're really hopeful. So 3 remain on death row, which matters a little bit. But 37 with their sentences commuted. These 3 with their sentences not commuted. Apparently, their crimes were not as bad. Right? Boy, are they not on our side. These are not good people, not by a long shot. And you're wondering what's going on with. I took one phone call earlier today. Our phones are being weird today. They're being weird today. I think they're being on and off. It's kind of strange, but we've got plenty to talk about. And normally I would have gone to the phone several times by now, but because our telephones are being, what is the word? Hinky. Being a little hinky, I think. All right, I've got 1 hour left. I have the mailbag today, my mailbag questions right here in my hand. And we have President Trump audio from the press conference at Mar-a-Lago yesterday. Great stuff. And I'm going to share with you a bunch of Donald Trump at the press conference. He came out and he spoke and he took lots of questions. And Joe Biden doing an interview days ago now with USA Today. They had to polish it up for him. But he says that he thinks he could have won the election even though Kamala Harris lost it. And that's because he's a misogynist and a racist. How else could you possibly explain that?